but I can see what you mean. It's garbled.
Sounds worse than before, actually.
It is.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't figure it out. I don't know what's wrong. I had my computer upgraded too.
I think my guess now is it has to do with your microphone. If it's built in, it might be that, that's where the problem is. I don't know about you, but I got a Logitech speakers that includes a microphone, and it wasn't that expensive.
Well, okay, I want to experiment first with Google, and then we'll work it out.
Well, we should try that, because if Google has the same garbling, then it is a hardware issue on your end.
Now, do you hear any difference now?
Yeah, that was a little better.
Okay, because I'm removing my speaker.
But it's the microphone, because are those old speakers set?
I don't know.
Oh, right there. That was better.
Better?
Move back over there for a minute, right there. Talk, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It still has a little garble. Okay, somebody's phone.
I don't have to put that.
Call from Steve Phil. Call from Steve Phil.
Let's get started. I want to review what we went over last time. I found.
How are you feeling, Andrew?
What?
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine. Yeah, I had a tiny little stroke. It didn't affect me at all. But everybody else is worried and takes care of me extra good.
That's a side benefit.
Yes. I want to mention that I looked up Walter's question. I think it was before you came on last time, Joni. Walter was talking about the Gita, the three gunas, and he saw that one was the first one, sattva, sounded very, very good, not the least bit negative. And then I looked up the translation that I have. I have 3 translations I use, and I see that the one that I really think is the best has the word wisdom. It has the word knowledge instead of wisdom. Now, there's a big difference. Knowledge is something that really attracts you to this world, and this world is filled with knowledge, but not with wisdom. So that's interesting to show how a translation can be so misleading. I think that.
Well, even the other words, luminous and happy. I don't know.
Well, happiness, though, that I can see, and Marion talked about that last time, about how I think he explained that very well, about how these things really keep you attached to this world. So happiness is in that category.
Pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah, and where joy is a different, again, a deeper category, and that's what we want to strive towards, a joy that really is filled with love, that's just giving and doesn't expect any return.
Yep.
Then
I say the happiness is to do with more with what is the word I want to use? Selfishness?
I think so. And then
if something goes your way, then you. All right.
Then when Marion comes on, I want him to talk about this 3-fold, 30-fold understanding, 60-fold, and 100-fold.
Excuse me, I'm a little bit under the weather.
Which again is the same sort of thing, higher levels, and it has to do with evolution too. We're evolving, so that we should be entering more higher levels of understanding and appreciation. And I think that's what he'll talk about if he
I got the impression he was quoting the Bible.
he is. He's quite
But I don't remember reading that anywhere in the Bible, so I don't. Maybe
well.
I haven't read all
When
of
he
it.
comes, he'll talk about that. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention too is who is Krishna? I mean, Krishna has a very important, close relationship to Christ.
Call from Baker.
Well, are you not going to reincarnation?
Call from Baker.
I don't have to pick that up.
Call from Baker.
Well, whose phone is going off? I don't
That
understand.
was my other phone. I don't have to pick that up. Am I clear with? Can you hear me clearly, no matter where I sit? Is it better?
No,
Is it
it's
better?
still garbled.
It's the same, but we can understand you, I guess. It just sounds
Okay,
very
so
crackly.
let's continue. Krishna has a relationship to the reincarnations of Jesus. So
I
I
don't
think,
know anything about it.
well, Jesus has there are two Jesus babies, and so the one Jesus baby has many incarnations, and I think Krishna would be one of them. And there's a connection between Christianity and the Gita.
How do you arrive at that, Andrew? I mean, I don't.
Well,
I don't
Steiner
understand.
mentions that, but it certainly makes sense. Krishna is
Who mentioned?
what?
Who mentioned
Steiner.
that? Oh,
Steiner
okay,
talks about
okay.
the relationship to Jesus and Krishna, but
And Jesus went to India for many years before he came back, so there is some connection there, even in the Bible.
but the thing about that to remember is that he didn't need to go anywhere.
Right, right.
People,
I don't know. You went to India? I heard something to the effect.
Well,
The
this is-
Bible doesn't mention
a
it.
certain Gnostic heresy that does not have him dying on the cross, because again, Gnosticism very often could not conceive of God being man, incarnated in the flesh, where they thought the material world is an illusion. So one of the heresies, and it's in Seth material and so forth, where they deny that Jesus died on the cross and think that he died in India somewhere, but that just shows their lack of understanding what we've been talking about. Now, do we want to talk further before Marion gets here? I expect he'll be here. So, would either of you like to discuss anything about the Gita or anything about what I've said?
On the ego?
Yes.
I do have a question. If we could review some of the questions on the in the Gita where you have, what does the Apostle Paul say? Not I, but the Christ in me.
Yes.
If we could talk about that question, I would just like to hear your interpretation of it.
Now, I think that's where St. Paul fits in with the Gita very, very dramatically. That it's when you say not I, but the Christ in me. That really,
Ego.
that's the process that's the thought, that's the concept where you can get to your higher self. That's the self that's life. What we were talking about last time, we were talking about life in the Bible has two words. One means psyche, and the other means the spirit, the real spirit. And two different words that are used. And not I, but the Christ in me is making that distinction. The normal I that you are comfortable with is a false I. It's not your true self. Your true self is really
Right.
life and light and the logos.
So isn't the not I the ego?
So the not I is, yes, not the ego, not the lower self,
Oh,
but the I in me. That is the I, the spiritual self. And Steiner says that that Christ is I am. So that's what that means.
thank you. That's what I thought, but I wanted
And
to,
if
you
you-
said it better.
And if you make that clear to yourself, you'll be much better off in your life completely. You won't get disturbed by things.
Yep.
And
Well,
nor will you be afraid of death. Does that make sense to you, Walter?
Yeah, if you could become aware of the logo, I guess all your infirmities will go away, from what I understand.
Well, and
Because you
also
realize
all your
that you're
fears.
not your body, but once you realize that you're not your body, it means you're not afraid of dying.
Yes. And you're not afraid of anything.
Right.
Really,
Take anything.
and that
That's what I'm trying to get. You know, I'm rereading a book on how to know the logos, and there is something you got to get in there to thinking with live thinking. You know, not the pastor that thinking. So you got to be conscious of the part of the thinking that creates the thinking, without not just the result of the thinking.
and the more you
That's a tough nut to crack.
well, yeah, but the more you read that, because it's a question of consciousness, the more you read that and it becomes you'll see that it will work. It will work in all the different ways. But that's what's good about the reading.
Excuse me. Grunwald gives some exercise on the other book, From Normal to Healthy, which is similar, about meditating on the function of certain things, you know, getting, before anything appears, what makes it appear, or meditate at nothing, total nothingness. I guess from nothingness, everything appears from nothingness. We're not aware of the process yet. I'm aware of the result of the process, but not that process itself.
Yes.
So basically, meditating on nothing, he says, first it will not work. You got to keep doing and doing, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to do that myself. It's hard to focus on nothing.
But that's the godlike quality that we all have. Because after all, that's why he stresses, getting to the primal beginning.
Right.
And then when you hear things on television that are extolling the Big Bang Theory, and this, the other night I was watching something where he was saying that everything came from a marble, the size of a marble, and that's what was the Big Bang, and that created everything. To me now, that seems so stupid and so superstitious, but there they are. They people extol these scientists who have these kind of theories, and they don't realize that it's just thoughts that it's thoughts that are behind these theories.
And they just can't wrap their minds around it. They got to have something rather than no thing.
Yes. Yes.
Well, their Big Bang Theory, in effect, is saying from nothing something appeared, which is similar to the spirit part. You know, out of nothing something starting to appear.
Well, that would be good if they said that. That would be very good.
That's not what they say.
No. They can't conceive of something from nothing.
Because
Right.
the mind does not function like that. The intellect doesn't see the creative part of us. You know, so basically, they have to have something measurable, some
Right.
theory that working backward.
The more, for me, as I practice meditation, the more that I can focus on the space, the emptiness, the no thing between my thoughts, the silence, the more I feel like there's an opportunity to connect with spirit of some sort. Because, in 3D here, it seems like there's, the duality of there's two sides to everything. where silence is the only thing that can't be divided. So, you know, again, but you have to believe that everything comes from no thing. So if you don't believe that, then it's the ego. I think, but you know, I think it's the battle of the ego to some extent. One of the questions, the last question here that you posed, number 9 here, is compare Gita with Steiner on how to know the higher worlds in terms of help in education of the spiritual self. I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
Well, I think what we're talking about here is evolution. I mean, the Gita is such a great document, and it's interesting to talk about how what this means to us today in terms of your question, Joni, because what's important is to see how thousands of years ago this was the height of civilization, the height of spiritual thinking, and that's why it's so beautiful and has so many things that apply to us. But what it's missing is a sense of evolution. And so knowledge of the higher worlds is Steiner's attempt to evolve the Gita into something that makes sense to us. And it has a lot to do with not I, but the Christ in me. I mean, and it's really also becoming, letting Krishna come into us, not to follow Arjuna, but to really let Krishna enter ourselves. That is to really evolve along with civilization from the Gita to Christianity.
Even I find
at the beginning of the Gita, it seems like it's trying to tell us to stay away from the physical world. It's Maya, to go back to the spirit world, like it used to be before it was attached to it. But near the end, it tells, what's the young warrior?
Arjuna?
Yeah. He says, go ahead and do your duty. I think that that part there reflects what Steiner says in most of those books, like, yeah, you are in this world, you have to engage in this world, but you got to walk a fine line between both. You got to walk in the middle. You cannot divorce yourself. Or else, why are we in this world? I mean, we are here because we got to engage into it. We cannot try to escape it all the time. There would be no sense to come in this world. So that's why I interpret it. Steiner says, yeah, you gotta live your life, and you gotta walk a fine line between those two opposite forces. What is it, Ahriman and Lucifer, or whatever, and kind of.
And where that comes into play is the difference between Buddha and Christ. I mean, Buddha is such a beautiful figure and such a beautiful preacher of love. So how can you really fault Buddha? But Buddha didn't go through the crucifixion and resurrection. And that's the huge difference that you're talking about, Walter, in terms of how we should live our life. That is not want to escape, not want to go back, not want to stop reincarnating. We want to continue reincarnating. We want to continue because after we die, we would have the impulse to come back and help others, not to stay in heaven. Now, what Kulavin talks about too is the first heaven. Because what we're talking about is the first heaven. All of these questions relate to what is the first heaven. Well, that we can experience the first heaven if we realize the kingdom of heaven is at hand now. You know, we don't have to wait. If we continue doing this work, doing this reading, doing this thinking, we will start to experience more and more heaven on earth. And that's
heaven.
Walter,
First heaven is it's the lowest part of the spirit world, closest to the earth or whatever.
yes.
Is this where all cognition and type of information comes from to us? You know, from the first heaven, or hunches, cognitions, ideas.
I don't understand that question.
Well, most of this, a lot of the ideas that come to us really come from the spirit world, don't they?
Yes.
Especially when it comes to innovations and
Yes.
cognition. The
Yes.
spirit world we're talking about is the first heaven part there, the closest to the earth. Or what is first heaven?
Yeah.
Say it again.
The more you experience that, and the more you read these marvelous passages, the more you will find yourself in the first heaven. You don't have to die, or the more you'll be aware when you sleep.
Well, isn't that what the whole crucifixion is trying to teach us, is that when you die or you go to sleep, then you resurrect into a new life. I mean, isn't that the part of the lesson? Or am I always thought that was part of the crucifixion lesson.
Well, that's for me, that's a very, very difficult subject. It's hard enough to understand reincarnation. And I think resurrection has to do with all sorts of very, very deep scientific type of things about matter and how to transform matter. So I would say that.
I'd love to hear about that. Can you say a little bit more while we're waiting?
Well, I would like to, but I think that's above my pay grade.
But you mentioned one time, Andrew, that the resurrection is something far, far away. What do you mean by that? I mean, I thought we'll go through so many incarnations, then you don't incarnate anymore.
Well, the way I look at it is that first get in touch with your reincarnations. That's the first step. And you have to get very, very familiar with your reincarnations before you become a whole person. And then when you become a whole person, then you can start to entertain what resurrection means. I mean, I find that very, very deep and very far out in terms of, and it has to do with science and matter. You know, how do you overcome matter itself? How do you really overcome death itself? It's one thing to do it in your mind, like we're talking about with these concepts, and it's another thing to really be able to overcome matter, to transform matter itself. I can see doing it with your mind, like we're talking about, but it's very hard to really talk about the phantom body.
Did Christ raise Lazarus? Was he really dead and he was resurrected from the dead, or was it some other stuff? He was in a coma or something and he was made awake.
Well, that's what I know. This is a technicality. That's what it says in the Bible. But in the ancient times, it's not like they had. We don't know if somebody's dead unless we've got electrodes put into their heads. I mean, is it possible that it's? I mean, I always wonder about that. I never asked anybody about it, but it's like we don't really pronounce anybody dead unless we hook them up to electronics. And it's not just the pulse. A lot of times we need more sophistication. So was he really dead?
That again, you're talking about the same sort of thing. That's really borderline beyond my pay grade. Because a certain amount of that I can understand, like born again. I mean, that's the real born again experience. When you die and then don't die, that's a near-death experience. That I can understand, and I've been through something like that. So that makes a lot of sense to me, how you can have a new life, by being
Yeah.
a new person, by going through these experiences. But that,
In the same body, in the same body.
yes, but there's something in the Lazarus experience that has to do with something deeper than that. Has to do with some physical part of well, with Christ too. That has to do with a physical kind of thing.
Yeah, but he wasn't resurrected with the same body. He could walk through walls and things. It seems like to me he was resurrected with a different kind of body.
Yeah, he was resurrected more, not as a physical body, because wasn't Thomas putting his hands? Oh, he still put his hands through the wounds, but you're right. He did walk through walls.
I mean, that's you gotta say, well, okay, if you get resurrected, what does it mean? You resurrected the body you died with. If you're 95 years old, you get resurrected like you look like 95. If you're 2 years old, you get resurrected like you're a 2-year-old kid. I mean, those brings up a lot of different questions and issues.
Come on, we all know you get resurrected as your perfect 21-year-old body. Give me a break. Isn't that what we all want?
Because this is strange. We were talking about, with my niece about burial. When you die, and I was thinking about getting cremated. She didn't want to get cremated because she got some doubts. When you get resurrected, if you get cremated, you can't be resurrected. Well, if the body sits there and rots, well, you got to go through some kind of reverse process anyway to get back.
Yeah. At what point on the continuum, it's like...
Yeah, that's why for me, I don't like to bother with those matters beyond not identifying with your physical body. It's very, very important to not to think you are your body. That's the point that to me.
No, that's right. It was fun to talk about it for a minute.
Because from what I understand, Andrew, our everyday consciousness, they keep saying, I read it, it's a reflective type of consciousness that actually uses the physical body somehow. The eye itself sees itself in like a mirror through the body, and it forms the lower eye. That's the way the part that is subject to all kinds of drive, desire, issues, and greed. That part is a reflection of the higher eye. Am I reading this right when I was reading some of these books? How do you interpret that, Andrew?
Yes, I would say that's right. That is, your body is a necessary part of this whole plan, so that you can see reality reflected in your body like a mirror reflects you. You are not what you see in the mirror. The mirror is a reflection. So your body works for this.
But it seems so real. That's what's so crazy. I know the mirror is mirror, but the body is here. You can feel it, touch it.
It's just a thought you keep thinking.
Well, look at how we are relating. We see each other, and this is certainly even like a good movie. You can see a good movie, you get involved with a movie, and that's real in a certain sense, but of course it's an illusion in another sense. So it's very tricky.
Definitely between 2D and 3D anyway,
It's reflected consciousness. It's hard for me to grasp it. This everyday consciousness is a reflected consciousness.
Well, doesn't it help when you look in the mirror?
Yeah, but it's a reflection of my body there from the mirror. But the everyday that we experience, that's supposed to be a reflection of something else which we're not really aware of. You know what I mean?
That's right.
There was studies. I'm sorry if I'm not quoting it correctly. That's why I used the finger. That the whole thing is you are beyond your hand. You're not your body. You're beyond your finger or whatever. So that's what I was alluding to. You mentioned something about past lives. Do you have tools, or do you teach that, or how did you get in connection with your past lives? Because you said something profound about you need to be connected to your past lives before you can, and that is not...
that will help to get over what Walter is struggling with. I mean, you get in touch with your prior lives, you won't feel yourself in this lifetime to be
finite.
yourself. Yeah, you'll really feel that you are just a part of your own reality.
So what tools do you use to get in touch with your past lives?
Well, I've been given a gift. When I was a teenager, I had a sense of that. And then I didn't believe in reincarnation then, but I still had a sense of being reincarnated even without believing in it. And then when I was at Princeton, I had an automatic writing experience where I was able to write a brilliant paper in another set of consciousness. It was completely automatic writing about ancient Greece, details, all details, and the professor just thought it was the most brilliant paper he'd ever read. And that's how I was able to graduate with honors.
So you told him that was just remembering.
Well, at the time I didn't think deep enough about that. I didn't think about it, even though it was so fantastic. I didn't think about it. And then when I was in my late 30s, I had another experience in the library where I found somebody who I also identified with. And then it wasn't until Steiner wrote about reincarnation that I was able to awaken to it. And then the mentor that I had gave me those lectures by Steiner on reincarnation and karma. And I read it again and again and again. And then I had a further experience where I was able to make sense of my life. And was able to, so I have no method that is replicable. And the way I've been teaching this is directing people to these Steiner lectures on reincarnation and karma, but that hasn't been helpful. These are too deep. And even for Steiner, Steiner lectured on karma and reincarnation. And by the way, the book that Walter recommended to me is much better because he gave those lectures in the let's say something like 1911. And that was as much as people could handle at that time. And then the lectures that I'm referring to are the lectures that he gave in 1921. And that was 10 years later. And he was trying to do it from a different point of view, from a point of view that had much more to do with again, science and cosmology and bringing in the hierarchies. And I think those are much too difficult. I have stopped doing that.
Yeah, well, I've always had trouble reading Steiner. Is there somebody who might have? There's many wonderful books on different subjects where people on a higher pay scale have, rewrote his stuff or commented on it. Do you think there's some? I'll look it up and see if someone has wrote about this subject, because we learned about Waldorf all through the writings of people, 20, 30 years ago, not through directly. People who study Steiner and then reinterpret it for the lower pay
Well, that's
grade.
what Walter did with that book that I thought was very, very good. It's
Yeah.
it's a Western approach to reincarnation and karma, and it's edited by Rene Corrido.
Yeah, I want to write that down.
And
Western.
And this is put out by
I'm sorry, what's her name?
Rene Corrido.
Uh,
Yeah, there it is.
can you see this?
Yeah, I just need to spell her name. Q-U.
That's a he. That's a he.
E-R.
That's a
It's a
he.
he, I believe. It's not a she.
Okay, good. I like that. Thank you. I'll read that. Then we'll all be on the same page.
He has a lot of comments. He has a lot of comments about Steiner's. He
Yeah, now-
introduces it. And
He's done.
I've only read Steiner through other people, so like this. That's how I learned about
He's
it.
done what you suggest. I mean, he has a very good introduction. It mentions the Bhagavad Gita too. But I think
Okay.
that's one of the reasons why the Bhagavad Gita is important to read what can be said about it in terms of the old Vedic tradition. But I think all these things are helpful in terms
Yeah.
of.
Thank you, Walter.
So will this, I know you had it naturally, Andrew, and I know you're probably a lot more evolved than I am. I haven't had those experiences you had. So in a case like mine, what should I do? Keep on reading? I don't like trying to get a hold of past life.
No, I would say that just do this, keep on reading, and something will happen to you like happened to me. It will happen to all of us in due time. In due time, you'll catch on. Something will happen. It will trigger something in you.
Yeah.
And again, it's like what Marion was saying last time, which I liked very, very much. When you're ready, the teacher will come, but also for the teacher, when you're ready, the student will come. That is so good. I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah. I was in another class, and I've learned some more applied spirituality tools, and I'm imagining, since we didn't have a different process, I'm learning this round table process where you sit, and it's a kind of a deliberate meditation. You know, you have to gain patience, and you kind of call to almost like a stadium full, or a table, at least a round table, but where you call to the past or the part of you that needs whatever your question is. And I've been applying it to woundings, and I can't say that I've had the big, aha, but I'm imagining that that might be a way, because the more I go in, the more I meditate after I've read, the more I write after I meditate, the more I'm starting to get glimpses or symbols or feelings, and I'm wondering if that might be a way to get in touch with the past.
I would think so, but also I was hoping that these kind of conversations will help too. That if we share these, if we share these experiences,
yeah,
and these books and so forth,
absolutely,
that will be a process that will work.
Well, what I love about you in this course with all the books is there's such richness in, these people are dead, so, reading about them or their writings is so rich. It's almost like piggybacking on them. So that when we go into a more inner meditative kind of thing, there, who knows what will come up. I mean, that I have not experienced what you said about basically channeling or feeling as if you were there or something, that you could write that much. But this whole idea that I've learned the last 3 months about this round table, or imagine a stadium, and calling and then practicing waiting for it, seems like something to try.
Now, what you mentioned, the word imagination, that's one of the things I think is important. To get in touch with your imagination, not be afraid of it, and not be so skeptical about it. It's imagination that produces everything in the world. I mean, everything.
The thought that which creates worlds is thought. I mean, the energy that creates worlds.
So that's a question of waking up to that we're all imaginative, and to wake up to that, and not to deny it and to demean it. I mean, in favor of the intellectual. The intellectual is really what Walter was talking about before. The intellectual is the past. That's the past, the brain
Paradigm.
thinking.
Yeah. Very linear versus quantum, I guess.
And imagination is the primal. The imagination will get you in touch with yourself too.
Yeah, I remember, a lot of people, we talk a lot about money, and somebody was reminding us that, money isn't shoveled in from another galaxy or another planet, and only 150 years ago we were trading skins and seeds and things like that. So, everything comes from a thought, I mean, it just, getting in touch with that power and creativity is exciting to me, and how they must have done it. I mean, that's where I wonder with the people. I mean, imagine the people who who were writing the Bible in the Bible times or the ancient times. Just the idea what they've been thinking about is incredible. So.
I'm going to find out where Marion is. You can keep talking. You
I
can,
thought it was tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow I can meet tomorrow if you want to do it tomorrow, but it's only because the weather's kind of difficult here, so I'm staying home.
Well, we've already been through 3/4 of the way here. I don't know.
It's really dark. It's stormy here again. Where? Oh, you.
Johnny, are you in any way tied up with the Steiner thing in and out? What do you call it?
Anthroposophical Society?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my children went to Steiner for, their whole lives, and I did all of the, with the society. I know all those people. I've read the books, and I know the medical people, and I've done it all, but money's tight, so I'm not doing it as much today. But during raising my children, I lived everything Steiner, medically, anthroposophically. I believe in, all of it. My current physician at U of M was had extra training through anthroposophy, and everything we did for probably 15 years was based on Ann Arbor's interpretation of Steiner. And yeah, so I lived it, and I love it, and I love the people. It was just amazing.
now
I'm not familiar with medicine and how Steiner dealt with it, but
Well, there's, the difference is I didn't always read about Steiner until later, but the people who read it became educated through it. In Ann Arbor is the Anthroposophical Society of the United States, and also they're doing a huge event right now at the medical center. As a photographer, they know me from my school, so they'll call me in to do stuff like that. So I see them from time to time, but I know all these people personally, and I know all their children, and they're just amazing people. And so I've experienced Steiner through. I've experienced Steiner through having my children in the school for 8 or 9 years, being treated by the doctors, being at these events, and the Anthroposophical Society. Housing. I actually housed the people that came here to learn how to be Steiner teachers. So
the thing that I find disappointing is that Steiner people have not had the spiritual experiences that non-Steiner people have had.
no, you're right.
And I find that disappointing.
But everybody's on their own path. I think one of the shocking things I had to accept was there'd be all these wonderful Steiner teachers, particularly women, that were teaching my children, and their marriages would fall apart. So we're all human. We're all on different paths. So you just have to, and we all have different aspects, and we're all at different parts on our time journey. So, yeah, I used to ask them directly, how the heck can you guys be claiming this and have such terrible that? But that's just the way humans go through life,
Now that, of course, I agree with you 100% about that, Joni. But still, getting back to what Walter is talking about, I would think that reading these books, these people would have deeper spiritual experiences and talk from their experiences rather than from what Steiner said about this or that. That's.
I think you're right, and I think but unless, like with what's Campbell on the hero's journey, unless you have that big traumatic betrayal, there's, you're just floating around piggybacking off of it. I piggybacked off of Steiner. I just bought into it because it was wonderful, but I didn't have any spiritual experience. I think there's a little bit of this hero's journey of Campbell's, the guy that said, who said follow your bliss, the hero's journey. I think until you have in your life some kind of experiences, you don't really feel the spirituality that they're all talking about to some extent.
No, I think that's so true.
But I just enjoyed the Steiner people. They made the best food because they're all organic. I mean, they do all of the stuff, but I do a lot of stuff mindlessly. I didn't know better. But I still was glad that when things happen, or when the betrayals and the traumas and all the things happen, it's nice having you and the books and the Steiner and all of these people to shore it up, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't have a good answer for that. Because at the time, I thought I was spiritual, you know. You're more spiritual every day than you ever were back then, you know. And even worse is Catholics, you know. You go to church on Sunday, and then 2 minutes later in the car home, you're screaming and yelling at your kids. You know, I mean, that's a good question. How come we study this, or how come we can't practice it or experience it?
Yeah. That's a very good question. I think we're all struggling, you know, because we're subject to weaknesses and
Or the ego.
and the ego and Luciferic influence and Confucian environment. Unless we can rise above them, but when you're inside the physical body, you're subject to all these things. Physical body puts a tremendous weight on you.
But as we become more deliberate, as we study these together and support each other, we make better choices, and we're deliberate. And then when we go into our personal, I think, the more we get the tools, spirituality tools, we go inside and connect with that. Then we come out and we talk again, we read again, we have an opportunity again, we love again, and that seems to work. But
Well,
it's amazing.
that's what my ambition is. My goal is to have a community where we can all support one another, because I think you're right. That will make, because it's a question, again, consciousness. If we think the world is the way it is, we're being misled, but we're in the body, and that's the trap that we all are in. So we
But
think
it's a
that this is the
vehicle.
really real. So how do you get over that? And how do you realize that is not the really real? But you can,
Well, you said it right here. I mean, the three of us wouldn't be meeting. You know, we're in a vehicle. We're spirit in a vehicle, right? We're beings in a vehicle. And we're using now something that's, 10, 20 years old, this technology. You know, one of the things that was interesting for me that as a Catholic, you know, there was a time where people only had the Bible. Now we have a lot of interpretations. The same thing with Steiner. We only had books, and we did meet monthly with the teachers, and we learned a lot. But now, my gosh, between you and what's on the internet, oh my goodness, are we learning stuff. The trick seems to be, how do we apply it, you know? And I don't begrudge anybody at Steiner who wasn't applying it. They still were doing a lot better than me, or you know, they were at a higher pay grade than I was. It's like,
but again, it gets us back to what Walter was saying, the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
absolutely. Or to know knowledge, or to know wisdom is wisdom, but to know yourself is God, you know. So that's, until we stop breathing on this journey, I guess we keep trying. I don't think we ever get to it. Right?
Well, that's the beauty. It's always an evolution. No matter where you are, there's always more. It never ends. That's a wonderful concept. It never ends.
Yeah, it's expanding. We're expanding our hearts, our knowledge, we're decreasing our ego, and you know, and besides that, once we get into, you know, pure positive energy, it's boring. You know, you need contrast to expand and to trip and to, you know, the hero's journey. I'm going to be studying that again. I studied it years ago, and I'm going to be looking at, you know, Joseph Campbell's the hero's journey, and you know, I think all of this fits into that. You know, it's just.
Now, the hero's journey in Campbell and Jung, those teachers are so important, so beautiful. They write so well, and they're such valuable contributors. But that's the soul work. They have not discovered what we're talking about. They have not discovered not I, but the Christ within. As that's why that's very valuable to study that. so that you start to distinguish, well, okay, what is Steiner bringing into the world that Joseph Campbell did not bring into the world, and that Jung did not bring into the world. Jung is interesting. The course on Jung makes a big point of that, of how he was a scientist of the soul, and he knew that, and he knew he was not a scientist of the spirit.
Yes.
And he could not understand Steiner. He could not understand Steiner's work on dreams. I find that very insightful. These are the kind of differences. These are the kind of differences that will awaken you to your own spirit. If you start to understand the differences between, say, Steiner and Jung, that will be self-transforming.
Well, I hope you'll be part of that journey with me. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't had that class with you on Jung, so.
Well, let's set a time to meet next week. Should we meet the same time? And
Sure.
Joni, I want to work with you on
Google?
To see if that's any better.
Okay. But I want to at least, again, leave it out there. It might be a hardware thing. You know, there might be.
I think you might be right about that.
Because these, I can't pull it. I can't pull it. But Logitech came with its own microphone, and I'm just using that with the two speakers, and it wasn't that expensive. I'll send you a link from Amazon. But we should try for free the Google Hangout, and then if that doesn't work, then we know it's hardware. You should consider that.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Walter, at the same time next week?
Yeah, I can do it.
And if for some reason Marion thought it was tomorrow, because maybe he thought today was only
I don't know.
last week.
I emailed him, I think yesterday I was in touch with him, and I'm surprised he didn't participate. He's very valuable, very interesting man.
Yes, he is.
Very.
If you guys meet tomorrow, I'm available this Sunday, so at noon.
And next week, should we do it at noon or at 11 o'clock? Does it matter to either of you?
My webinar just ended, so I can do it at 11 if that's better for you, Walter and Andrew.
Walter?
Noon or 11 is good.
I can do 11, there's no problem.
So I just, I'm losing your emails, Andrew, so I have to look for them. I've got to figure out why it's not going to spam, but it's not coming into my priority. And then I go look and I find out you emailed me 5 days ago, so that's sad.
I was wondering what happened.
I don't really know why it's doing that, but now I have to consciously look for it. I got to wake up and go, where is Andrew?
Now, shall we continue this conversation on the Gita?
Sure.
Yeah, we can. I'm sure our conversation will divert from it, but but
I hope to read.
I have a suggestion. If you're going to get this book,
Yeah.
let's
I want.
let's discuss this book a little bit more, because I think this is an answer to your both of your questions about how to get in touch with your own prior lives. I think this is a better book to use. So
Okay. Do you want to? Does that sound okay with you,
this
Walter?
book.
yes,
Uh,
I read that book already, and I read it, I think, partially again, and I'm going to go look through it again.
So let's talk about that book in terms of what we're talking about, in terms of how to make a breakthrough to this not I but the Christ in me, or our prior lives. It's all the same thing. It's all exactly the same thing.
Well, it would be helpful if we could get some techniques and tools. And share how that works. That would be nice.
So let's read this book again, or reread it, Walter,
Okay.
and see if we can't figure out how to use that book because there's a market for this, reincarnation studies. That I'm sure about. People are curious about it, and they.
I've seen a TV advertisement. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but you want to get in touch to your previous lives, find out what's affecting you. They're promoting on TV now.
Is that right?
30-second commercials.
I see
So
there
must be a lot of people interested.
there's
Well, you know,
There's some amazing videos that are available now that are such proof of reincarnation. And
But doesn't hypnosis help with that too? Past life regression hypnosis?
Yes.
I'll look and maybe share some links.
Yeah, maybe that's a way for us to go.
Well, it's certainly a cheaper way to go. You know, it might be something to start with, right?
Well, it's what Brian Weiss is busy doing. They're experts in this. But they are missing stuff too. It's interesting to get in touch with them and see what they are promoting, because they don't refer to Steiner at all.
I know. Yeah, but you know what? We don't have to worry. We're only helping ourselves. So if we can put pieces to the puzzle, that's okay.
Yes, but what my point is that they don't refer to Steiner because Steiner's too difficult. So now
Well, he is difficult.
So what's the problem with leaving Steiner out? That's what we want to investigate next time when we look at this book. Let's discuss that issue.
Okay.
I mean, what is the problem? Is there a problem?
Good to know. You're never going to look. I'm never going to give up. I'm not going to give up totally on Steiner. I love Steiner.
Well, very good conversation, guys. So see you next week, same time, same station. And Joni,
okay, or send an email if you want to do it at 11. Did you want to do it at 11?
I think 11 is better for me.
Is that okay with you, Walter?
That's fine.
Okay, 11.
Okay, very good, very good. See you guys next week. And Joni, I want to contact you in terms of the Google.
Yep.
So we'll
We
do
can
that.
practice.
We'll do that maybe Monday or maybe tomorrow.
Tomorrow afternoon's good and Monday afternoon's good. Mornings are not great for me usually, so but at Monday afternoon and Sunday afternoon at like 1 or something. Find out if you're still meeting with Marion or not. But
Okay.
either way, afternoon I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay, very good. And Walter, Pauline will be with us in April.
Okay.
You asked about Pauline.
Yeah, okay. No problem.
Very good.
All right. The dogs want to go. Have a nice day, guys.
Very good. You too.
Well, it's a little dark here in Ann Arbor, so
See you next week. Bye.
see ya. Bye. Bye, Andrew.
Bye.